We're going to do net present value, internal rate of return, and maybe payback period. We'll see on that. But then the 21 exam will be mailed out. It's due, this is the last exam, so. And it's due Friday. And just to kind of reiterate from last time, so chapter 11 was short-term decisions, and we're mostly only looking at variable costs. And chapter 21 are long-term decisions, and we're looking at things that are variable costs and things that in the short term would be considered fixed costs, but in the long term, everything is variable. And we're also looking at time value of money. So we are going to get started. Let's see here. Got too much stuff opened up here. Wait a minute, do I need that? I don't need that. Apologize, I got too much stuff opened up there. Okay, so today, not even in class yet. Here we go. All right, so we took care of grandma's stuff here. Let's skip that. So we're going to skip these two. And what we're going to do is jump into what we came here for, the net present value. Okay, so net present value. You know what? I think I'm just going to jump right into it. Well, I'm going to jump into it and just as we come up with things, maybe I'll come back to this page. All right, let's go to problem number 10. Okay. Investment that cost $2,402 will return $1,000 per year for the next 3 years. The cost of capital is 8%. The investment has no salvage value. Okay. So I'm going to peek and see how I laid it out up here. Copy that. So do it consistently. Did I not copy that? Let's try that again. Sorry. Okay. Hey, look, it's even the same periods. How about that? Okay, so an investment will cost us this much, will return $1,000 every year for the next 3 years. The investment has no salvage value. Okay. All right, so here I'm going to kind of go through the kind of how the cash is going to go here. So we're going to get the cash flow. So the first year we have to pay for this investment. Year one, we'll get $1,000 back. Year two, we'll get $1,000 back. And year 3 will get $1,000 back. Okay, so what we want to do is figure out if we should make this investment. Now, we cannot just compare these dollar amounts. You know, you can't just say, okay, this is $3,000 compared to this 2,400, because these have a different value to them. The year $1 have different values from it. Year 2 have different. Even, you know, in year 2 and year 3 have different values. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I got to pull up the so here's the table. I can't move it. All right, now the nice thing is we have an annuity. All the payments are equal. So we can use the annuity table Okay, so let's see, for all 3 periods. We go to the annuity table. It's 8%. I'm in the wrong. I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong thing. 3 periods, 8%. And so the annuity factor is going to be 2.55. Okay, so we'll have our $1,000. I'll put it here actually, if the annuity factor. Okay, so what we're going to do is multiply times our factor of 2.557. And that will give us what the present value of these payments are today. I did that wrong. Yeah, thank you, Kaylin. This is wrong. Okay, so now here's what this is. So this is all of these we're bringing back to today. Because we can't compare them into the future here. These are worth different amounts. But if we bring these all back to today, well, then we can compare them. And by the way, you know, the whole idea behind this is that, you know, it goes both ways. That this is the amount that's worth that, and you know, these are the amounts that are worth this going to the future at 8%. So, by the way, Now, hopefully, we're going to compare what we paid out compared to what would come back. This would be a plus. We'll put a plus in there. And this will give us our net present value. That is not what I want to do. It won't let me change it. Okay, well, let's try something different. Boy, is that frustrating. How do I do that? I'm going to change mine. I'll do this. Oh, here we go. Aha, I'm back. Okay, net present value. So 2,400 negative plus 2557, 2577, I said it wrong. $175. So this is a positive $175. And you would want to take this investment You're $175 richer today. These are in today's dollars, and so you'd be $175 richer today, immediately, if you did this investment. Now, it's going to take 3 years to do it, but you'll be $175 richer today. You're comparing these today. So, and by the way, this is kind of the whole idea behind business and long term. If you understanding this is like understanding everything about business. You want to do, you're making these decisions for today, and going, they're going to be going in the future. They're going to be paying off in the future, but you got to figure out what they're worth today. And this is how you increase the value of a business, increasing what's coming in more than what's going out in today's dollars. Okay, let's go to the next one. And part of my showing you how to be lazy, copy this down. Okay, this is for 10%. I should say rate here. Period's 5, but this is an annuity, so let's see. So for this one, okay, so this one we have paying out $210,618. we're getting back 50,000 a year. For the next 5 years. And again, we cannot compare these to each other. You know, we can't compare this to the 216 to these payments because they're not in the same dollars. All right, now luckily this is an annuity. Let me put it here. It's an annuity because they're all the same. Oh, let's not do that. Let me move with this. Yeah, okay. So we got to bring these all back to today. So we're going to take $50,000 times we change it. Oh, okay. On our annuity table, okay, we got to go to number of periods is 5 periods. 5 periods. Let's make it orange. 5 periods at 10%. So 3.790. Give me 1 second here. See if that allows it. There we go. Okay. So we have to figure out how much this is worth. I guess we don't need a table anymore here. Okay, so this will be whatever that is. 50,000 times 189,500. Thank you. Okay, so this is this is plus coming in. This is money coming in. Okay, so our net present value is that is negative 21,118. Okay, this we would not want to do. You know, up here is positive, down here it's negative. So if you made this investment, you are $21,118 poorer today. So you don't want to make this investment. So if it's positive, you want to make it. If it's negative, you don't. And notice that someone could, either through ignorance or just trying to get money from you, they can say, "Well, what do you mean you're losing money? You're paying out $210,000, you're getting back $250,000. You're making $40,000. How can you say you're not making money?" But the fact is, these future dollars are not worth as much as today. Boy, does that look like a mess. But anyway, so it's only bringing it back 189 based on today's dollars. Now, on this one, this is what I want to talk about a little bit. And that is the required rate of return is 10%. The borrowing rate is 9%. Okay. This goes back up to this number, this one up here I was going to talk about. The cost of capital. And the cost of capital is how much does it cost you to get money? Now, for most small companies, it's going to be, what can you borrow money from the bank for? That's basically how you get your money. You borrow money from the bank or some other investors, but they're usually borrowing money. Larger companies can issue stock, and that's quite common. You can also see smaller companies can issue stock too, but it's just not as commonly done. So anyway, borrowing money is oftentimes what you pay for the, if you want to get cash into the place, how much does it cost to get cash in? Well, that's what you can borrow money at. Now, if you can't issue stock, to the investor, stock is riskier, which is why, selling stock for a small company it can be difficult because it's risky. So anything that's riskier requires a higher return. So this brings us back to the cost of capital is usually a weighted average of the borrowing rates. So what can you borrow money? What can you get loans for? And the rates of return for stock investors. So it's also that, so you're taking these two different things. What can you borrow money and what can you get for if you sell stock? And usually, let's go on the example here. Usually the return on stock is higher. It has to be because it's riskier to whoever's investing. When you borrow money, there's a certain amount you have to pay out. When you're looking at stock, there is no specific amount you have to pay out to these people. So it's a riskier investment. They require a higher return. So if this company had equal amounts of stock and loans, their cost of capital would be 11%. It'd be calculated as follows: 50% at 8%, and 50% at half of it, 50% at 0.5 at 8%, and 0.5 at 14%, and this will give us 11. It'd be 11%. If you do the math here, it would look like this: half of 8% is 4%. Half of 14 is what, 7%? Yeah, so that's where you get that 11%. Oops. Give me 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. Okay. So this is how they come up with their cost of capital, and sometimes they will also have a risk. It's possible they have a risk for whatever your investment you're making. A riskier investment, you may have a premium, a risk that will be added onto that. This is usually the base amount. And if you guys did in your finance classes, you'll see more of that. But a riskier investment sometimes will require a larger rate to be used. But regardless, required rate of return, cost of capital, that sort of thing, those are all going to be the same thing, and they're going to be one you want to use, the mix, if they have it. But again, if you're a small firm, and if you start out in a small firm, use a borrowing rate. What does the bank charge you for cash? Use that. Because you get more successful and you can start selling stock and stuff, you can worry about this other stuff. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll do this. Now, it's also possible that you have a cash inflows that are not uniform. And these being that they are not annuities. So this is not an annuity. They're not the same. They're all different amounts. We can still do this, but we can't use the annuity table. All right, so let me copy something. I'll copy this one. This one has the most. Okay, so their borrowing rate is 10%. The number of periods is 3. And this is not an annuity. So the first year it'll cost $30,000 to make this investment. Oops. Year 1 will get back 12,000. Year 2 will get back 15,000. And year 3 will get back 13,000. And again, this is not an annuity. We cannot use the annuity table. We'll have to use the single payment tables. Okay, so let's see here. So we'll have period 1, 2, and 3. Oops, 3. Okay, so the first one is 12,000. I'm just gonna put these numbers in here and then I'll go over to the table. 15,000 and 13,000. Okay. And so we're going to bring these back to today. All right, time for Mr. Table. I save this before I do something stupid. Okay, Mr. Table. We can't use the annuity table. We got back to single payment table. And so we're going to do periods 1 through 3. Let's make these blue. Blue. Okay. Okay, so the first one will be 12,000 times 0.909, 0.826, and 0.751. Okay, make sure I'm using the right table. 10, 3 periods. Okay. So these are the single payment factors. Again, we can't use the annuity table because it's not an annuity. Okay, so what point was that? Okay, so these are money coming in. All right, so okay. So net present value. Net present value. Let's see here. So 30,000, negative 30,000 plus those. Sometimes it's better. It's easier just to do the add these up and then subtract out the 30. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, I got those add up to 3361 minus the 30,000. 3,061. You may want to check that. We get the two. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm just gonna put the equals here. So yeah, you'd want to do this investment. You'd be, oh, I should put a plus here. You'll be better off by 3,061. And again, this is in today's terms. The second you make this investment, you are $3,061 richer. And this is when you add value to a company. This is how you add value to a company. You know, the more of these deals you make, the more value you get added to it. It's going to take time for this to pay off, 3 years, but in today's terms, you're $3,061 richer today. Okay. We'll go ahead and do the next one. Same thing. Yeah, that getting messed up. Okay. So we got a piece of equipment. Again, this is not an annuity. Grab a little room up here. Okay. So again, this is not an annuity. So we can't use the annuity table. They're all different numbers. Okay, it's 12%. 3 periods is the same. Cash outlay is 50,000. Okay, now, so if you added these up, it looked like there's $60,000 coming in, but you can't really do that because these are not the same dollars as these. And as a matter of fact, your $1 aren't the same as your $2, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's go to our table. I'm going to do it this way. Ooh, look at that. Okay, so we're going to have 3 periods again, but it's going to be at 12%. We'll make those people. Okay, so these are the numbers we're going to have for those. And now I'm going to switch back to my table. Oh, look at that. See, they show up there and I just leave it. Okay. So first one is 8, 3. These numbers are all different. 797. 0. So if these are, yeah, and a lot of times when these are be a little bit, if they're not the same value, you can't use the annuity table. So you got to use a single payment table. You want to use the annuity table because it's quicker, but yeah, it doesn't always work that way. Okay, so money coming in. Oops. I get it right? You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I did not do this right. Okay, don't look at these are foolish numbers, and you're absolutely right. I did not change these. Thank you. Like, man, is that that is really a bad investment? Okay. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, plus 13. Oops. Ah, the wrong spot. Hold on. So 47,135. So minus 50,000. Negative 2865. So you would not want to do this investment. Doing this investment, you would be poorer by. So if net present value comes out negative, you don't want to do it, and that's what this one is. All right. The next one is a little bit different. Internal rate of return. Internal rate of return is making it's finding out what the actual return rate is in percentages. Let me write that out. I'll clean this up in a second. Okay, net present value. By the way, you see this abbreviated all the time as NPV. You're gonna have the return in dollar amounts. So that's what we just did. NPV, return in dollar amounts. Internal rate of return will give you the return in percentages. In other words, what percentage is this investment making? Is it making 5%, 10%, 3%, whatever it is? But the return is going to be in percentages, and this is commonly called IRR. So now here's the thing. These usually will give you the same answer. What I mean by that is if it's a good deal for the net present value, it's going to be a good deal for the internal rate of return. That's not 100% the case, but for the most part, that's pretty standard, is that if one is positive, the other one's positive. If one's negative, the other one's negative. So these kind of go hand in hand, and these are kind of the best ways to make a decision. So we're going to do the internal rate of return, and the internal rate of return is a little bit different in that we're going to try to make these look this. They'll be the same. Use the same numbers, but we'll get a percentage instead. Okay, let me go back to this one. Is the same as number 10, I believe. Okay, so I'm going to get number 10 here. Okay, so this is the same as number 10. Okay, so the same as number 10, but we're now going to find the internal rate of return. We know that from number 10 that this is a positive, what was it, 175? So we know that this was positive 175 in the net present value, but the question is, okay, well, what interest rate is it making, right? We know that it's dollar-wise is positive, but what interest rate is it making? All right, so this is kind of a two-step process. What we want to do is make these payments that are coming in, we want to make them equal to our investment. Okay, so we're going to try to make, do we need anything else up there? Okay, now, this is an annuity. And this is for periods, 3 periods, an annuity. And we know that's for 1,000. Now, what we have to do, pay attention to what I'm doing. What we have to do is find out what the annuity factor we need is to make this $1,000 equal that. So what is the annuity factor that we're going to need to do? So what we're going to do is divide. I think I'll do it up here maybe. So we're going to find this annuity factor. So we're going to take, it's going to be 1,000. Oops. Second here. So 1,000, and the annuity factor, also to say here for the factor, is going to be a F, let's say F equals factor. Okay, so we're going to solve this for F. Divide both sides by 1,000. Oops. Too much on that one. Okay, so this will isolate F. So F equals $2,402 divided by 1,000 is going to be 2.402. That's going to be our annuity factor that we need. We gotta put this down a little more. Let's see. Okay, so this is sort of like step one. Now, once we get this annuity factor, then we got to go to the table. So we're going to go to the table. And we don't know the percentage, but we do know the periods. It's for 3 periods. Okay, so we're going to go to the annuity table for 3 periods, and we're going to see if we can find the closest number to this. Okay, so are we on the annuity table? We are not on the annuity table. Okay. Okay, so we're here. We're at 3 periods. Let's bold them all. And let's make them green. How about? Oh, it's a little bit different color green, but we'll go with that. So what we're going to do is we are looking for 2.402 because this is the percentage that will give us something that equals the same as what our investment is. They're not always exactly the same, but in this case, they are. What percentage are we making on these? So we're going across, here's the factor. We're going across for these. There's some green that's closer to. Kind of bright green. Is this kind of bright green? That's closer. Well, you guys work on that. I'm going to play around with the greens. How come they're not the same? It's the same company. It's Microsoft. I will use this, I guess. Okay, so what percentage is this closest to? We go across our table. So 2.40. So here's 2.941. That's not what we want. This one's getting a little closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. We got a line here. And we're going to get to this. If you look at this 2.402, you find that this is exactly the number. Oops. So this is going to be our percentage. 12%. And so this is our internal rate of return. Okay, so how do you use that, right? I mean, it's 12%, okay. So how do you use that? You compare that to our cost of capital, and as long as it's bigger than the cost of capital, you want to make, I don't know why I just did that. Our cost of capital equals 8%. So in other words, this investment you'll be making, you'll be paying 8% and you'll be making 12. You want to do that as many times as possible. So you'd want to make the investment. You're making 4%. You're just going to be putting in your pocket for every time you make. Oops, no, not that. 4%. Oh, not that. What am I doing here? There we go. Sorry about that. And you'll notice it's the same as we did on page, or the same. You come with the same decision of yes, you want to make this investment. So it's sort of like a two-step process. This is sort of like step one. Oops. And down here, this is sort of like step two. So step one, you got the annuity factor. Step two, you go to the annuity table and look up that factor. Okay. Question on that? And again, it's giving you not in dollars, but in percentages. And again, if you can borrow money at 8% and you can make an investment that makes 12%, do that as many times as you possibly can. Okay. And we do the same thing down here. I'll be lazy again. Copy the whole thing. No, wait a minute. I didn't copy the whole thing. Why did that turn out badly? Okay, let's not do that. Oh, I know why. See if this works. Kinda. Okay. So let's take a look at it. So this is the cost was 210,000. 618. These are all 50,000. Move this up in a second. Okay. So this would be 50,000. Copy this in. Doing that. Oh, wait a minute. Man, that looked terrible. Okay. Well, anyway, so this will be 50,000. It's for 5 periods. And we have to make these equal to good job. Okay. So we have to make this equal. So this will be 50,000 equals 210, 618. We're going to divide both sides by 50,000. You know, I know we've gone past our break. I tell you what, we'll just push on through with this, and then this will be the last thing we cover. I'm not going to go over payback period. I'll mention it a little bit, but you know, just stick with me for another 10 minutes. We'll be done with this thing, and then we'll be done with the class. How about that? Okay, so 210,000. divided by 50,000 equals 4.21236. Okay, so this is the factor that we need to get to find our percentages. 4. So this is the what we need to go to our table and figure out. 9.2. Let's see those. Step 2. These all get merged. Oh wait, that one gets merged too. The new name for this class should be how not to use Excel and not to use it, how to use a computer incorrectly. All right. Okay, so let's take a look here. 4. Okay, so we're going to come into this table. Now we're going to do 5 periods. So we're going to do 5 periods. Ooh, let's get rid of this. 5 periods. And we're going to go across until we find a percentage that, the factor that's closest to it. So we're going to, let's highlight these. I'll make these red. So we're looking for the closest number to, come on, there we go. Closest number to this, 4.21236. Oh, Control F for find. Very good. Okay, so this would be 4. These only go up to 2, so. Hey, look at that. Very good. Control F. So yeah, so finding it. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so 6% is going to be our internal rate of return of this thing. Okay, so this will be 6%. This is for 5 periods. %. So that's gonna be an internal rate of return, 6%. Our cost of capital is the required rate of return in this case. Copy that. required rate of return and cost of capital. It's called a few different things. Oh, it should be 10. So our required rate of return is 10%. So in this case, it'll be this will be a loss of 4%. And you don't want to do it. You're paying 10% for the money, and you're only getting back 6%. So every time you make an investment, you're losing 4% on it, which is not what you want to do. This is not how you add value. This is how you yeah. Oh, that's what it is. So you would not want to make this investment. I should always say, do not make the investment. Do not make the investment. You're losing 4% on each one. Okay, yeah. Now, so just to give you kind of the terminology, cost of capital, you'll see it called a bunch of different things, unfortunately. It's called the cost of capital, discount rate, required rate of return, cutoff rate, hurdle rate. You'll see it called different things. And so don't try not to let that throw you, but it all means the same thing. How much do you have to, what percentage are you going to be using to either borrow money or to see if you want to make an investment using the internal rate of return? Okay. I'm going to skip the payback period. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and how it's used. You're not going to be able to do it on the test. I just want to kind of show you why it's, and one of the reasons why I want to tell you about it is that virtually every company I've ever worked in has used it in some way. So it isn't like, oh, you'll never see it, even though these two are the best. So these two are the best way to make your decisions. And they're about equal. There's some cases where one's better than the other, and this one is probably the worst. And you say, well, wait a minute, I went to college to find the best ways to do things. I don't want to know the worst ways to do things. I could probably do I probably don't need any training to do them the worst way. That's not what I really want to learn. Well, payback period is simply this. Payback period is simply when do you get your money back, and it's undiscounted cash flow. So if I pay out $1,000 for an investment, when do I get $1,000 back? Do I get it back in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? How long does it take me to get my initial investment back? Now, there's a problem. There's actually a few problems with that. First of all, it's not discounting the cash flows, which the cash flows in the future are not worth the same as today. Second of all, once that payback period is hit, so okay, let's say I get my money back in 2 years, it ignores all the rest of the future cash flows. So yeah, you get your money back in 2 years, but maybe this thing goes on for 30 years. It doesn't take any account of those. So forget about that money, it doesn't matter, which we know it does. So it's not a very good method for actually making a decision on it, on your, as far as making an investment. Now, like I said, every company I ever worked for used it. And you say, well, okay, well, why are all these companies using such a bad method? They usually use it as a form of looking at the risk. The longer the time period, the more risky a decision is. The more things can happen. The market can change. Things can change. So it's not used usually as a decider of what projects we should do, because it doesn't really tell if it's going to be profitable or not. But it is part of a risk assessment. So it's good at being used for risk. The sooner you get your money back, the less risky it is. Okay, let me do that for a second. And okay, so let's say that we're trying to learn how to use a computer. No, so we got these two investments, and they're pretty similar. The net present values are about the same. Internal rate of return, they're about the same. They're not too much between those two. So the question is, well, which one should you pick? You can only pick one, let's say, and you need to know, what do you want to do, the alpha one or the beta one? And if you look at the payback period, how long does it take to get their money back? You're probably going to want to go with the one that you get your money back sooner, right? Because a lot can happen in the time between. Well, think about it. Well, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, no one knew what COVID was. That didn't make any, that wasn't anything. Look now, I mean, it's lots happened. So the further out you get, the riskier it becomes. So this would actually be a riskier. So this would have more risk. Because it takes longer, and this would have less risk. It takes less time to get your money back. So this would probably be the one you want to go with, given everything else is equal, because it's got a lower risk. You get your money back quicker using this method. I'm making the beta investment. Okay, well, so I'm going to send out an exam, and the exam will have 3 different problems on it. Yep. We will have net present value with it for an annuity, and this is like problems 10 and 11. It will have net present value of the single payment table. Oops. And that's like 12 and 13. And then it will have an internal rate of return. So there'll be 3 problems on it. I'll get it out later on tonight. I want to go through and make sure that I'm not putting out something stupid, although, So this is what's going to be on the test. One of each. Any questions? As far as next week. Next week's class, let me put this. for tutoring, no new material. So if it's not required next week or anything like that. So next week's class, we will not cover anything new. Ooh, let's not do that. I will be here, same time. But it'll simply be for anything you want to clean up, anything you have questions on, anything you want to have help with, going over again or something like that. If you have old work you want to talk about, turning in, how do you do this, how do you do that, I'll be here. But next week's class is going to be strictly for tutoring. It's not no new material is going to be covered next class, and you won't be responsible for it. This will be the last thing that we do is this chapter 21. Any questions? Okay, well, great having you guys in class, and if I see you next week, I'll be happy to see you next week. If you have any questions on anything for tutoring or anything like that, let me do something really quick here. Let me get a screenshot of this. Give you guys credit. Okay, I got it. All right, and I will hopefully see you guys in future classes. Any questions? Okay, the test will be out. I'll try to get them out by like 8. I actually got a meeting to go through too after this class, so it might be a little bit later than that, but I'll try to get them out like around 8 o'clock. Questions? Thanks, guys. See ya.